Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone to Tuesday, April 5th, 2022 Council Chambers meeting. Let's start off with our prayer with Assistant Chief Pastor Jason Davis.
Let us pray. Father God, we thank you for tonight. We thank you for the city of Biloxi. Thank you for the citizens and the visitors that come to this place. We thank you for the leaders. We ask now that you would bless this meeting, that everything that will be done, said, and thought will bring you glory. God, we thank you for keeping us safe. We pray for Ukraine, that you continue to be with them. God, we love you. We ask all this in Jesus' name we pray. We do say amen.
Amen. Let the Pledge of Allegiance be led by Frank Bordeaux.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yeah, good deal.
Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Chair entertain a motion to suspend the rules. Okay, moved by Mr. Lawrence, second by Mr. Barrett. Any discussion? All in favor?
I told her about it.
Motion carries. If the clerk would read the revisions.
To the consent agenda, we're substituting item 5Q, resolution authorizing First Amendment to agreement with Tailor Made Lawn Care, adding item 5Z, resolution approving the terms of the General Obligation Bond Series 2022, adding 5AA, resolution amending the engineering budget for professional services, adding 5BB, resolution authorizing settlement of claim by Charles DuBose.
Motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll second.
Moved by Mr. Lawrence, seconded by Mr. Guines. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. We'll start with the mayor's report.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Welcome everyone to this meeting. I'd like to ask Frank to give us a little update on the insurance program.
Good news.
Thank you. Before y'all, I have the most updated proposal. On page 3, basically, last time I came before y'all, we were at about 2.9 million on renewal. We're going to renew about 2.6 million. And at the last renewal, we had our deductible went from 3.5% deductible to 5%. The main reason for this reduction is the purely competition. We were going to replace Amerisk, who has been on y'all's account as the lead carrier for quite some time. Once they found out that Velocity, we have gone with, decreased the premium and the deductible, they did the same. My recommendation to the administration was to go with Velocity, the new carrier. They were still less than what your current carrier was. One thing that I'll note, if you turn to page 4, there are a lot of new carriers on this. It took several new carriers to get to the full limit of what we purchase. And I do believe, as I said last meeting, that will continue as the market continues to harden. Our hope is that there gets to be some more capacity out there, but right now, I'm sure y'all see in the news like everybody else does, multiple carriers have gone defunct in the past week in Florida and in Louisiana, and so the outlook is not great, but at least here in Mississippi, we're better than some of our neighbors. It was overall a 12.5% rate increase, which is much better than a lot of your counterparts across the coast. We did have a 13% increase in values. The administration has gone through the statement of values and increased some of the values based on today's construction costs. And this will change slightly because we are lowering some values on some other buildings. And so as we continue to scrub and try to get the statement of values cleaner, we'll see a decrease. But this is about $300,000 less than what y'all approved last meeting, and so I just want to advise y'all of what we finally settled in at. I can answer any questions that you may have.
Anyone have any questions at this time?
Yeah, one quick one, on 12.5% across the board, or just,
I'm sorry?
on the 12.5%, you said they had an increase. Is that across the board, or just?
That's if, the cumulative rate would be 12.5% increase. The increase was not really in your primary layer. Your primary layer, which you would expect to be an increase that we've, in the wind deductible buyback, was about a 1%. It's really in your excess layers that we had the larger increase, and that's where you see a lot of new carriers in there. There's a carriers in the past several years have taken a larger percentage of that excess, and they weren't willing to, and so we had to get several carriers. So that's where we're seeing the increase, and that's not isolated to Biloxi. That's
12.5% really don't benefit us, it just makes more money for them.
they've ran at a deficit since 2016, underwriting profitability since 2016. I'm not getting rich off of.
Can you hear me? That's better. I just said the 12.5% doesn't do anything with the city. It just makes the insurance company more money.
Yes, sir.
There's no reason for them to go up 12.5%. We didn't do anything wrong. In fact, we actually did quite well with the insurance through the year. So, I mean, that's what gets you when you're dealing with somebody like that. Sometimes we have to look at what it does to just insure everything ourselves and drop them all. You know, you're putting out $3-4 million a year. Do we have that many claims per year? 3 to 4 million?
This past year?
Yeah.
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, anyone else have any questions for Frank? If not, we'll move on. Thank you for your report.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Frank, appreciate it. Before I forget, I think should ask the council to spread the expenses of the Biloxi credit card to the minutes and give you a report on. I think we had a Councilman Gines, Councilman Deming, and Councilman Glavin. We had a pretty good visit with our Commissioner, Tom King, in MDOT and the engineering opportunities, and actually, what was it called? Notice of Funding Opportunity, NOFO, is that what we're?
Yeah, no fault, no fault, no fault.
But it was interesting, you know, again, the bridge and some of those other things were discussed, as well as what, you know, our act needs to get together with regard to chasing some of these opportunities. And again, I think you agree with me, or, you know, I think the opportunities will come fast and furious, so that's why we need to be prepared to do that. So, and I did give you an idea of the projects, its cost in general, and how we were going to, everyone should have a spreadsheet in front of you, and we can discuss that at the appropriate time, but that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Any departmental reports?
None.
There being none, we'll move on to council reports. Mr. Lawrence?
Yeah, we attended opening day ceremonies at the Little League, and was at 8:30, and I was up early, made it,
Yeah, right.
got the first pitch.
Okay.
Robert was there, and Kenny. Of course, Kenny was forced to be there because he got a grandson playing. He has no choice. He has to be there. Right, Kenny?
I'm coaching as well, so.
And then we opened the girls' field at 10 o'clock, you know, so it turned out good. But I spent a lot of time walking that area with the drainage and the light poles sinking and the fields sinking and the drains sinking. Before you do anything on them fields, you better fix the drainage and find out why everything is sinking. I know it's all wetlands, everything's marsh. It's not a good thing, but when you got a light pole swing, it's sunk 2-3 feet in the ground, and 3 of them don't work. So, I mean, you can't keep building this up on marsh and wetlands. It don't work. It takes a lot to make sure it's sturdy enough to do it. So we need to look at everything. And the girls' field is what needs to be covered. I don't know whether it's turf or grass, because every time it rains, all that dirt pours into the drain. Then you have another problem. So those are the things you have to look at. The Little League fields itself was in actually great shape, other than rain might affect them some, but they really look great. And the people around there were really proud of the way the complex looked. There's a few things we got to do on I know the air conditioners are 21 years old, and we spent $100,000. What would it take to replace the air conditioners? They don't work at all. So would it be better just to replace them? 21 years that opened up that field. So, I mean, it's time to look at replacing units like that inside those buildings and make sure the bathrooms, everything is updated. So those are the things you need to look at before you start wasting money on fields. You better take care of the complex.
The whole complex needs to be upgraded, be top-notch. We've had some conversations with the school district, and everybody agrees. You need to invest in that whole aspect of kids to junior high, to high school. I mean, there's some value in all of that. It's got to be top-notch, and that's what and nobody can argue, and I think Mashada Patana has done an excellent job in kind of identifying these things. And, you know, again, the 6.2 million is just a figure. It can, you know, it can be refined to do everything that needs to be done. The whole idea is to get it top notch. It will be an attraction. It'll be attracting folks that we haven't in the past, in the last 10 or 15 years.
Well, these fields is run by the city. The high school field run by Biloxi High, and on the one they had to use that extra one. But that's really, you know, they either get into the game with us or not. I mean, that's something like you.
Well, we've had some discussions of that, and we'll update you on some thoughts there.
Right. And another thing you and I discussed, I want to make sure we follow up on it, is Gwingalot. And when we open up the Sangha, that we hang a picture and everything, have a memorial for her in there. I know we're going to follow up on that.
That's in the planning mode. We actually have the portrait.
And also when the walkway's finished on Back Bay, that we named the walkway after her.
It's not quite finished yet.
All right, I'm just saying. So we're just making sure we're going to follow up on these things here. This lady did a guy, she supported the city of Biloxi a long time. She's a good person. And some of these people that we praise, this is one of them we should definitely praise, without a doubt. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Guines.
Yes, I wanted to thank the city, the mayor, Sherry Bell. We got fencing going up around Bush Park. Bush Park has always been an open park, and for safety measures and safety reasons, we have kids out there from time to time, and a lot of times they can get into the streets. So with the fencing coming up, that add another measure of safety to our park. So I appreciate that. And again, foot stomping what the mayor said, just excited to be a part of the Transportation Committee meeting. And there's all kinds of possibilities for the city of Biloxi, and to know that MDOT is on our side. And of course, I want to just acknowledge friend of the coast, Mr. Al Hopkins' reappointment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Guines. Ms. Newman? Mr. Deming?
I was looking at this capital project list you gave us, and a lot of them have the design firms assigned. The pickleball expansion for 200,000, where did we get that number from?
Right out the sky. We talked about 76,000 initially 2 years ago, and I understand there's no money's coming down from the legislature from around pickleball. So, you know, I think that would handle the expansion to the courts as well as the additions to the public facilities, the bathroom and whatever overhand. So, but it's just a rough estimate.
Councilman, as you I'm sure already know, the pickleball group, Pickleball Gulf Coast, did their own design, and it's ready, and we will receive their design along with the estimate tomorrow.
Okay.
And at that time, we'll move money with the mayor's.
We're not moving any money.
We'll move the money into the capital project.
Well, again, this is a list of things that we could do with the millions of dollars. This is a worthy project. You know, again, let's identify what we need to do and where it is, and before we move anything.
I understand.
We could resolution committing us.
The paving on Ravenwood and
They've started the demolition and repair of the curb and gutter.
Right.
And as soon as that's done, the Warren Paving's going to do the paving job for us.
it's scheduled, ready to go.
So they just wait. We got to get the concrete done first, the curb and gutter before the paving. I'm sure this time next week they'll start the paving.
Okay, have we heard Have we had any contact with the county regarding the bluffs?
Haven't talked to Connie about the bluffs.
All right, I'll reach out to her tomorrow
Mhm.
and see if we can get some movement on that. I know they've been waiting for the repairs on those streets that we marked up, I don't know, 6 months ago? We marked those roads
Yeah.
for repair. So I'll reach out to Ms. Rocco tomorrow and see if we can get some,
Yeah, we really do need their help. We can't self-perform that level of work. They've got the big dump trucks and the big heavy equipment that we don't have.
right, okay. Well, that will conclude my report.
Thank you. Mr. Barrett?
I have no report.
Okay, I just have a couple of things, or a few things. First, I want to kind of echo the mayor's reference to Felix, Robert, Mike, Peter, the mayor, of course, and myself. We did go up and meet with Commissioner King, and he asked us to cut through the chase. What are you asking for? And he seemed that he was going to give the mayor significant support on the project. Prior to making it up to Hattiesburg, we made a little stop in Wiggins, and I guess you can call this group the Tuna Brigade. We dropped off the mayor's have a food drive and everything, and we dropped off I don't know 100 pounds of tuna or something in that range.
6-ounce cans, but there's a lot
Yeah,
of cans.
yeah. So the mayor was kind of having flashbacks to his cannery days when he used to throw the cans in the store and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, that was fun and productive and really good. Opening day, great. However, kind of a dark cloud today. We have, but on the bright side, in Ocean Springs and Gulfport, the new D'Iberville Sportsplex, and other areas, they are playing ball tonight after the little bit of rain we had. But unfortunately, at A.J. Holloway Sportsplex, we got to wait a couple of days for that rain to get off. So all games were canceled tonight at the Sportsplex, and those kids are staying home with their parents, I guess, helping around the house with their parents. But yes, repairs are badly needed. I was at a tournament on Saturday. They hosted a little OTA tournament. Couple of little things. The fencing on field 4 at the girls softball field, when they pitch, on occasion, it'll go underneath the fencing, because the fencing has it's pulled back and everything. Perhaps we can get some zip ties as a temporary measure until we can make some repairs to that. But that was a little bit nagging, during all the games that were played on field 4. Want to point out, AT&T has also started work in some of the neighborhoods. They're in the Watersview neighborhood. Mike, I think you fielded a couple of complaints over there, but basically there's some confusion on the right-of-ways, how far they can go, where is the right-of-way, can they go past the right-of-way so many feet. I'd recommend maybe we can get something out in B News or B Mail or some kind of way to at least have an attempt to inform everyone, the residents, that, hey, when they're intruding on your yard, there's a reason they may come a little bit past the regular right-of-way or easement. And that may be helpful, it may not. The other questions, if they do tear up the lawn, is the contractor responsible for that? If they tear up some lawn, are they responsible for putting it back the way it was? And I think the answer is yes. Mike?
Yeah, I had an interesting conversation with a gentleman that called, who all hot and bothered about his, they were trenching across his front yard. And he said, who's doing quality control in this job? And I said, you are, sir. You are. I said, we only have just so many inspectors. We can't be everywhere. So we really depend on residents to tell us if they see something that's not right. Now, in his case, they were digging with a trench as opposed to drilling underneath the ground in the right-of-way. So his only concern then ultimately is, they're going to put it back the same and going to use sod or whatever. And as we said, if you're not happy with the work, you call. We'll send a guy out and check. The other two from your neighborhood that called, they just needed to be coached a little bit on what right-of-way it meant and what that allowed. And as you say, as you pointed out, you and I have discussed the idea of putting maybe a one-page educational article in the B Mail this next round that tells people a little bit more about right-of-ways and easements and so forth. So, I'll still go back to what I told the guy. You are the QC, all of you.
I'm sure they accept that responsibility.
Yeah.
One other thing, I'm going to go back to opening day. I want to commend the chief. He was asked if he could bring a fire truck out. He brought that out to the field. The kids and parents enjoyed taking a few pictures and touching it and everything. And Chief, I appreciate you helping opening day. I think he even threw out a pitch, and I think you were the most accurate arm on the field that day. So.
But you didn't invite the police?
Maybe next to Robert, you know, so.
You invited the fire department and not the police, they're gonna have their feelings hurt.
Well, we got some other stuff we're going to invite them to, so.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to ask the mayor one more question. They have 2 barges, all kind of equipment out there by the Blind Tiger. What are they getting ready to plan on doing?
Corps of Engineers dredging the channel.
Corps of Engineers are doing what?
Dredging the channel.
They
Talking about where the
dredging
cars are parked? Talking about where the cars are parked across the,
Barges on the water, that's where those employees are parking across from the,
Blind Tiger.
yeah, and the Blind Tiger too. But the barges are dredging the channel.
No, that's what they're there for. Here, so they just have them down here to move them up there towards the Treasure Bay. You talking about the launch they're getting ready to build at Treasure Bay? What did you say in that?
The boat launch at Treasure Bay is a county project. It was bid once before. The bids came in too high. They asked for some more Tidelands money. They've just gotten some more Tidelands money. I assume they're gonna put
I
that
think
job back out.
He's asking about the barges that are up and down Oak Street. That's the Corps of Engineers dredging the channel. That's dredging the channel.
Just make it deeper.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
No, I'm just saying, so that's what they're doing. So they're not putting it on the beach and not putting it on the
No, no,
island.
no.
They're just dredging it out.
Come on, Treasure Bay.
Good.
I know they're making it deep, I mean, but just, people just want to know what was going on there, that's all.
Yeah, they're not filling it in, they're dredging it, right?
Right. So they're actually doing something. That's a good thing.
All right. And since you mentioned the chief, I was going to conclude my report, but I'm going to mention Chief Miller. Chief Miller had a class that recently graduated from the inaugural Citizens Police Academy. It was well attended. I think you have even one of the graduates has passed their reserve test, and now that's a potential new employee for the city of Biloxi. But thank you, Chief. You want to just say a couple words real quick? I promise to get the council out of here in an hour, so be brief, please.
So it was our first Citizens Police Academy. Ms. Glavin attended. We appreciated that very much. It's 10 weeks, one night a week for 10 weeks. Any citizen can sign up. When we start the new class, which will be pretty soon, we go through every aspects of police work and show them what a policeman does, and we even take them on a ride along, show them how to run radar. So just about everything that a policeman goes through daily, we explain that to them and show it to them, use of force and everything else. And so I think it's really helps us relate with the community better. And so we're taking applications now if anybody's is interested. So
I'm going to have her give that police baton back to you, though.
Yeah,
y'all taught her too well, so.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chief.
She did a great job. She did a great job.
Thank you. All right, that concludes council report. We'll move on to public agenda. We have 45 minutes total allotted for this part of our agenda. You have 3 minutes as an individual to come up here and state your name and address. So we'll start on this side of the room, my left, your right. Anyone wish to speak to the council?
My name is Michael Cavanaugh. I live at 134 St. Jude here in Biloxi. I don't want to take up my 3 minutes writing, so I'll write afterwards. I'm here tonight for an item that is on the agenda 2 weeks from now. The reason why I'm here tonight is because there was a B News release March 22nd that said that the Planning Commission reviewing the 2 hotels between Father Ryan and the beach and I'm reading directly from the B News, after a lengthy hearing and input from the adjacent neighborhood, the Planning Commission voted 10-2. To call it input from the neighborhood is a stretch. There was basically a deaf ear given to everyone who spoke from the neighborhood. There were quite a few people there. And in 2 weeks, there'll be quite a few people back as well to speak to you guys about that. But it just seems like the project is being pushed through quickly. And so the neighbors have a number of questions of why is it being done this way. I'm new to this process. I've never been involved in anything like this, so maybe I'm confused. But just reading through the sequence of events, first the DRC did not give final approval for the development. They wrote a letter. Basically, it looks like a contingency letter to let the developer go before the Planning and Zoning Commission. So they have, and they're underlined in the letter, we will have to review this before any final approval is, or any construction is started. So I find that curious, that why would you go through all of that and then have the DRC or the city have to review it again? The project does not conform, as far as I can tell, to the future land use comprehensive plan. That's the West Beach Historic District where this project is located. Yellow is residential. This plan was developed in 2009. Mr. Tisdale, who's not here tonight, was on a citizens group that gave input to the plan. The developers in their map amendment request said it did conform. So maybe there's another plan. This I pulled from the city website today. So I guess maybe there's another development plan that I'm not aware of. Speaking of the West Beach Historic District, this district, ironically, and here's the actual original application. You can go online and look at it. It's actually to the National Register of Historic Places, U.S. Department of Interior. If you Google West Beach Historic District, it comes up on the U.S. National Department site. But this was done or approved in 1984, which is in the middle of...
Sir, your time is up.
We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Huh?
We'll see you with the rest of the group.
See you in 2 weeks, okay.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Michael, bring a second reader.
Huh?
Bring a second reader.
Well, I'm going to call Teresa and get her to come over here.
Mr. Kavanaugh, keep in mind, you can find all our numbers on the website, and feel free to reach out to us, and I'd be happy to discuss all of your concerns with you.
Yes, and that's really my purpose here, is to let you guys know that we're concerned. This has not been a collaborative process at all.
Thank you, Mr. Kavanaugh. Thank you. Anyone else on my left, your right?
Got to get a bigger chair here.
Anyone on my right, your left? Anyone in the back of the room? Citizen comments are now closed. We'll move on to the policy agenda.
She's erasing.
Go ahead.
Ordinance to approve a zoning map amendment for 2 parcels of land measuring 40 acres from agricultural to residential estate to RS10 low-density family, single-family residential for land unaddressed on Jim Bird Road.
I'll make the motion.
Moved by Mr. Barrett. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Gines. This is a first reading. Item B.
Ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances relating to temporary sign permits.
This was moved by Mr. Deming and seconded by Ms. Newman. Mr. Deming?
Yeah, discussion, and I know you contacted me and reached out to me, and I didn't have time to communicate back with you or Peter, but I have some very strong concerns with the language in subsection N, temporary signs, 1A, or excuse me, 1B, all of the little I's in B. First, the single I shall be in good repair. It's really an ambiguous term, and whether it was intended to be used in an abuseful manner, it can be used in an abuseful manner. I don't know how you define what good repair is. Is good repair tattered? Is good repair faded color on the feathers? Like, is good repair bent? If we had some type of parameters that we could really outline what that is, like if you go to a restaurant, they say no jeans or no cutoff shorts. If we could use a list of the things that we actually are prohibiting instead of just an ambiguous term such as good, then I would support putting something in there if they made sense. No more than two per business. I feel like that is a very restrictive term because we have different size businesses, different size storefronts. Some could use more than one without being distasteful if that's the purpose we're developing this ordinance. And you restrict the ability of the business to actually advertise adequately. And keep in mind, it's their business and it's their property. And so the at least 10 feet from the curb, while I may be more amenable to this one, I still feel like as long as it doesn't infringe on public safety, that number there doesn't really satisfy a goal because public safety could still be violated within that 10 feet as long as we're not using it. If you go down, sandwich boards are allowed to be less than 10 feet. And I don't know, and so there's a clause on there as long as it doesn't impede pedestrian traffic. So there's some boundaries for signs that are within 10 feet. To say banner signs can't be within 10 feet or flag signs can't be within 10 feet, but a sandwich sign can. I think that it's an arbitrary standard. It should be the same standard. So as the ordinance stands right now, I couldn't support it. I think the majority of what we've added to this is inconsistent with other purposes we've done for signage, and I think it's too easy to violate or too easy to be used to violate someone without added parameters in there to give us a determination of what they are expected to comply with. I could make a motion to amend this, but the amendment would basically be striking out the majority of what we added in. So I will make a motion to table this for at least a week so I could work with Kenny and Peter to come up with some language that I think would be more conducive for our businesses here and our ordinance itself. So I'll make a motion to table this for 2 weeks, for a maximum of 2 weeks. Wait a second, by Newman.
All right. There's a motion to table by Ms. There's a second by Ms. Newman. Any discussion? Or I get vote on it, I guess. All in favor? All right. Those opposed? Motion carries to suspend it for 2 weeks, or to table for 2 weeks. Move on to the next item.
Resolution vacating a defined portion of unimproved public right-of-way on South Hill Drive.
Chair will entertain a motion. I'll motion it. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item D.
Resolution granting conditional use to authorize 3 single-family residences to be constructed at 647 Howard Avenue.
Do I have a motion?
Oh, okay. I'll move it.
I'll
right.
second it.
Moved by Mr. Guines and seconded by Mr. Lawrence. Any discussion? Mr. Guines?
None.
Jerry, can you explain what they're doing here? Are they actually building 3 new buildings, or are they just adding something? That was the old restaurant.
Yes, sir. They're going to be building
two. What it is that the brother and his wife of the former owner of the restaurant have bought the restaurant building and have converted that into their primary residence. And they're going to build two smaller houses behind it to use for short-term rental. Now, the property is zoned RB, which allows short-term rental as a use by right, but under the ordinance, multifamily is a conditional use in RB. So the reason they're here today is not because of the short-term rental, but because that they're going to have multiple residential units on the property. So that's what they're proposing.
All right.
Okay.
So
Thank
what
you.
did the
Any
planning
other
commission
discussion?
say? What did they say about that, the planning commission? So you say it's all right to get the conditional, you say okay, short-term rentals?
Planning Commission had no objection to it, no. And also the building right next door to the west is already a short-term rental. The little Creole cottage that's there that they restored a few years ago, that's already a short-term rental.
So how many cottages can they add to this piece of property?
Sir?
How many cottages can they add to this piece of property?
Well, once they put these two in there, it's going to be difficult to add any more to it because their driveway is on the west side, and you have to go through the driveway to get to the two in the back. And when they get those two back there, they're really not going to have any room for any more.
I mean, it's a pretty good sized parking lot behind that restaurant.
I'm sorry?
I said it's a pretty good sized parking lot behind that restaurant.
Yes, sir.
So you could build on top of the parking lot.
Yes, sir.
That's up to you there, Felix.
All right.
Yeah, I don't
Any
have
other
no problem with
discussion? Any other discussion? All in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Item E.
Resolution granting conditional use to authorize the establishment of a convenience store with gas facility located at 2790 Beach Boulevard.
I'll go ahead and move it for discussion. I spoke to Mr. Tisdale, and he said there's no reason to hold this up. I had considered maybe a motion to table, but I'll go ahead and make the motion.
I'll second it.
All right, seconded by Mr. Guines.
The table it?
I have no comment on it, Mr. Guines.
And I have none either.
Okay.
I
Anyone
think he
else
got
have
the
any?
perfect name.
Okay. Anyone else have any comments?
So
Lawrence.
we're getting ready to vote on it, would you say?
Yes, it's
Okay.
moved and seconded. We're in discussion.
Well, I think it's terrible to take that and put a little gas station there. They put a little sliver right there on DeBees Road, and who's gonna build behind it? That's a huge piece of property where Olive Garden was. And what are you accomplishing there? You killing another big piece of property for a gas station? We have to do a little better than that. So, I mean, I just can't support that for that. To think that you either build a condominium or another Olive Garden, will they build anything behind a gas station? I don't think so. That's not good for the city of Biloxi.
May I ask, Mr. Creel, how did the Planning Commission vote on it?
They voted to approve it.
Was it unanimous?
It's a convenience store. It's a convenience store that happens to have gas sales. The only reason that it's before the city council today is because of the gas sales. Gas sales allowed as use by right do not start until you get to CB zone district. And this one piece of property on that entire block is zoned NB, neighborhood business. And in neighborhood business, if you have a convenience store with gas sales, it's considered a conditional use.
One other question to you, Jerry.
Sir?
What is the gas station? Nobody knows. There ain't no gas station. This guy's moving his property to put a gas station there.
Mhm.
There's no gas station line. There's no Circle K. There's nothing. So he don't have any gas station even put there or a convenience store. So that's why it's hard. We just went through this stuff with Felix with his piece of property on 244 rental. As soon as we passed short-term rental, it got put up for sale. And I don't want to affect this big piece of property for something that's not even in the making. This is all this guy's actually trying to get done. And his record on doing these things are not really too good in the city of Biloxi. So there's no gas station found, there's no Circle K, they used all that. Then he made the statement, you can't build a restaurant on that property. And where'd that come from?
Well, my understanding on that is that the company that owns the property that had the Red Lobster and Olive Garden are owned by General Mills. And it's something in their deed restriction that they had put on there about a restaurant not coming in. And my guess would be, I don't know this, but my guess would be, is that maybe they have some intention of rebuilding a restaurant on the other side and put this deed restriction on here to keep any competition from moving across the street. I don't know that, but, experience tells me that that's probably why that was on
So
there.
they could build a restaurant, nobody else can. What you saying? How could they put that on the deed?
Well, I mean, you can add a deed restriction to anything if you own the property.
A restaurant left there, but you can't build another restaurant there. That don't make a whole lot of sense. But we can build a little gas station and ruin this piece of property. Or maybe build a gas station. I can't support that. That's just running a piece of property.
Okay. Any other discussion? Call for the question. All in favor? Those opposed? 5-1. Move on to item F.
Resolution directing the issuance of general obligation bond series 2022 in the total amount not to exceed $17 million.
Chair will entertain a motion.
I'll move it.
Moved by Mr. Guines. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Barrett. Mr. Guines?
Yeah, I think this is just the right thing to do, and it's the right time to do it.
Thank you.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Barrett?
No comments.
Anyone else?
The same problem we're having there with the, for how we're gonna spend this money. What are we doing exactly the day with the bond? You just putting it on, trying to sell it? What are we actually doing today?
I'm sorry, say that again. In this resolution, I guess, yeah.
Jane Maynardi, 457 Carmark Lane, Biloxi. What was the question, about selling it?
Yeah, what are you putting, are you trying to buy, or are you offering to buy a $17 million bond?
We are selling a $17 million bond to the Development Bank, the Mississippi Development Bank, and then the Mississippi Development Bank is issuing its bonds. And if you approve the subsequent resolution tonight, Raymond James has found a buyer for those bonds at 2.75%, which they tell me is very good.
So all we're doing now is doing that to set up to how we're gonna spend it. We'll do that later.
Yeah, well, exactly, blow by blow, and that's what this sort of generalizes. There's 30-something million worth of projects that, can do bits or parts or pieces. But, as far as the infrastructure, everyone's, the two big hitters, in my opinion, is, the Pops Ferry extension. And then also the A.J. Holloway Sports Complex. Those two, approach, a bunch of money. I can't tell you. But this, again, it's the time to do this. There's a number of, I think, opportunities to get reimbursed in the ARPA money that I think was just allocated last night, $400 million, I think.
400 million in that particular bucket.
And MDEQ will be the portal that will have to manage it. This was an effort to identify water and sewer and drainage problem, or, that would qualify. I think the Lieutenant Governor, about a year ago, wasn't it a year ago when we started crafting this? But we prioritized a number of projects, everything you see. But the good thing about this, we're going to hopefully we get, all but 25% of this done and reimbursed by MDEQ. But, we got to put it in the ground first. And that's, the cash flow situation that we'll be in for a while.
As the mayor is pointing out, one thing that changed since we last met with you is that just last night, at the end of the legislative session, the Mississippi legislature passed or obligated the legislation. They passed legislation to obligate this several million dollars worth of water, sewer, and other money, which means that we can now do with our 17 million a lot more projects than we talked about the last time we were here.
Right.
And that's what you see on that spreadsheet.
Well, if you're looking at spreadsheet, we would feel for there's $19.2 million of ARPA projects, but we would be responsible for 4.8 million if the things flow right. You know, if we get the 50% reimbursement, 25%, because at least these first 5 projects are identified by the county. So we're hopeful that will be our part will be 25% of this $19 million worth of projects. The first 4 are shovel-ready, ready to bid. The other ones are in stages of engineering. So it's absolutely the time not to be bashful.
But on the question, I want to ask, the 17 million is the number you want to pass?
No,
Want to go with the 17 million?
not to exceed 17 million.
But I mean, you're going to put it out for 17 million evidently. What are you bidding? How you bid that out?
The offer that is in the resolution that was added late is for the entire 17 million.
Right.
Now, they
And
might,
that's the 2.75.
at 2.75%. Now, they might take less than that. I don't know. I have not been in the negotiations with them.
The reason I asked that question, because you said that a lot of money you might receive for the extension.
Well, it's identified right there. You see how much of that 7 million, 13 million, we're responsible for 2.9. Given the situation where the legislature just appropriated 3.2 million, I think of that. And then the Gulf Regional Planning Commission, which was actually 6.3, but 20% of that 6.3 million is in the 2.9 million for that property, for that project.
So that was the other thing that happened since we last talked to you, is that last night the Gulf Coast Restoration Fund gave us 3.2 million for the Popsbury extension. That wasn't in the cards when we last talked to you about how to pay for that.
And also, a couple of weeks before, Roger Wicker came with a second 2.1 million. We spread, like the Apostle Paul, we spread the good news a couple of weeks ago. So that's part of the GRPC component for this $13 million worth of projects.
I guess what you could say, things are evolving, but they're evolving in the right direction right now. So if we keep moving and get this bond passed, we'll, at not to exceed 17 million, we'll be in a good position to take advantage of all this extra help.
The main thing I would tell you all the time, folks, the same thing everybody asks, fix our streets, fix our streets. Okay, I don't have no problem helping and doing some of these things.
That's what we've
We need
identified.
more than $3 or $4 million to do something with these streets and that.
Well, that's what this is at 19 plus 8 and 9, but pretty much streets and drainage. That's what this is.
Yeah.
And you got the opportunity to do it for 25% of the total 19-point-something million if the cards fall right. And then, any of the infrastructure, again, as far as debt service, paying these things back, we've got some use tax, which is for infrastructure, as well as these debt service situation with the state.
So we'll come back and how we spend the money.
Absolutely.
We'll dedicate it to where we want to dedicate it to.
These are the projects we've identified, and then we can examine each one.
I mean, I just looked at, you just handed me that, I didn't see that.
Jamie,
Anyway.
we talked about this last time. We talked about the two big
I got
hitters.
it right here.
Yeah.
I'm worried about certain things that we're getting ready to do and certain things we need to do. That's the idea. When you do these bonds and we're responsible for taking care of that, then we've got to make sure.
Well,
you
we've
spend it
provided, I think,
appropriately.
and Jane, we've pretty much identified the general
Yes.
projects with the bank, with the development bank, as well as this
Yes.
is sort of a follow-up to it allows us to pull the trigger.
The authority is very broad for infrastructure projects generally.
And with the 17 million, 2.75, how many years?
Excuse me?
How many years you have to take to pay that back?
The way it's structured at the moment is about 20 years and 3 months. It would mature August 1, 2042. And that debt service comes out to, I think, about 1.1 million a year.
A year.
For 17 million.
Yes, it's 17 million. Yes.
Sure.
So we,
We tell you every time, just to reinforce, each and every project that's to be done with that $17 million comes back to the council for approval. Each and every
Let me-
including the recreational facility, the upgrades to.
Let me give you an example of what has changed in the last 2 weeks. We had talked about the 17 million, 7 million for the extension. Now, that 7 million on our part is now 2.9. Okay, so we don't have to borrow 17 for that 7 million and 7 million for the what you call it, for the A.J. Holloway Sportsplex. So the more we're able to get folks to help the debt service part, we don't have to borrow 17 to do these projects. We can, it's just the right thing to do.
And you can rededicate it to other projects.
Yeah,
if,
we can add to it, right?
money falls in your lap, which is always a good thing.
And what do you always tell me, Jane? How long will you have to spend this money?
3 years.
3 years.
To actually pull the
Mr.
trigger.
Lawrence, Mr. Deming wants to chime in with a question for the mayor. I'll come back to you if you have additional comments.
None.
Is that okay? Mr. Deming?
And it may not be of any importance to anyone else, but my apostolic knowledge is very limited. And when you make references to things like Paul, give me a scripture so I can go home and research and know what the context
Always spreading
means.
good news. That was the deal.
Oh, is that what that means?
Always spreading good news.
Is that it? Any other comments? Mr. Lawrence, any additional comments?
No.
Okay, anyone else?
I have.
Mr. Barrett?
Just, I've asked this before, but just to make sure, this puts us at no risk in having to raise taxes?
No.
Okay.
Let me kind of explain certain bits and pieces of this. Again, use tax, that we had 1.3 million that are not tapped at all. So if it was proper for the infrastructure, that would be the debt service for those components. The other is, you're talking about millage. In the next FY year, I think there's about 0.53 mills that will be freed up that we can channel, for the recreation and the other projects there. So no chance of doing that.
Okay. Call for the question. All in favor? Those opposed? Passes 6-0.
Thanks,
Move
Jay.
on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion for the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Barrett, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Gines, discussion. Mr. Barrett?
I have none.
Mr. Gines?
I have none.
All right. Mr. Deming? Ms. Newman? Mr. Lawrence?
Yeah, I have a few.
You got your list?
Give y'all something to think about. The resolution here, A, what would that be? Alpha?
Alpha.
You got it, huh? I gotta make sure you got it the right one, because Popo has a hard time with that, alphabet like that.
Alphabet. Yeah.
They gotta provide sufficient fund to administrator to pay the city. I thought we just did that. We doing it again?
Are we still talking about Alpha?
Yeah, Alpha,
Okay, Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie, it all strings together.
yeah.
Same problem. We have vacancies in our staff. We've got vacancies in accounting, we've got vacancies in IT, we've got vacancies in engineering. And we're trying to cover those with some extra help, some extra professional services. In the case of IT, they've got computers that have to be rolled out, brand new computers, boxes of computers that we've bought, and they need help. They need to hire some help to get this work done because they're sitting.
Thank you, Mr. Leonard, for that explanation. Any other questions?
Yeah, I said, my problem was, I thought we'd put enough funds into that, so would that fall out of line? That we have to put this back
It's
in?
not out of line. You're just repurposing the labor to contract with services.
Yeah, so it's not.
You're not changing the bottom line to the budget at all.
So it's all within the budget we pay her?
Not within the category. If it was all personal services, we would sell some personal services into contract services
All right.
because those are vacant.
Oh, by the way, how many vacancies in the police department? 25.
And, Foxtrot. What is that, March Day, we're going back to something we did in March Day, we adopted it, and we had to duly publish it, so what are we doing here? We already did this once, you had to redo what?
That's Jane. That's the bond notice, what we had to.
Oh, yes. The statute requires us to publish the
Well, she wants to record it.
Very popular tonight.
Not me, they do, you want to be on TV.
Okay. The statute for general obligation bonds requires you to publish for 3 weeks. So if the citizens want to come in and protest the bond issue, they can do so. And if enough of them do, you have to have an election. So the deadline for them to protest was 6 p.m. tonight, and to my knowledge, I don't think we had anybody show up to protest. So this resolution is just to put it on the record that we did what we were supposed to do. We published, we've got the proof of publication attached to the resolution, and that nobody showed up to protest, so we can go forward with the bond deal.
All right. Thank you.
Excuse me.
I'm gonna ask, we have a couple on the Gulf Breed that helps us with our empty lots, and you got another person you put on a town or somebody? Do they do the same thing that Gulf Breeze does?
Item J, what item?
Well, I know you had the one that Town and Lawn or something, or somebody had the, what is that? Yeah, the tailor-made lawn care. So, I mean, they doing the same thing that the other one does? Are we gonna wind up with just one, or are we gonna keep both of them? No, just trying to figure that out. Thought maybe we just eliminate one eventually. The other one is U. Would that be Utah? What is that one? No, uniform. How come this expires May the 31st? Why you do it just for like a month? I mean, this is just pretty, that's why I'm just trying to figure out. You talk about April and May. Do we do this every 2 months, or is that something we have to do it for a year next, or what? So it's a state contract that runs out May the 31st. Is that what you're saying? Oh, that's when it runs out. So you're not saying that? Okay, just wondering, I mean, wondering why we're doing something, the thing that falling apart that quick, you know? Yeah, it was the last one too, for you in November. This is about the engineering. Have we hired any more engineers or anything to help you out? So you still looking for somebody. I mean, you're going to do so much, Mike. You know, we have to bring somebody in to help us somewhere along the line. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. Did anybody see anything they want to talk about? All right. Vote on the consent agenda. All in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Move on to code enforcement.
Item A on the agenda tonight, Biloxi Marking Products, Inc., 2730 Fernwood Road. This property is still in violation.
There being no one, this case is closed.
Item B, Ashland B.L. Prince and A. Ryan S. Baker, 307 Holly Street. This property is still in violation.
All right. Anyone here speak on behalf of Ashland B.L. Prince and Aaron S. Baker?
They have no objection to it. They just want to know the date that they get ready to take it down. Just
That's
give them the
correct,
date.
yes, sir. And we'll notify them of that.
Okay,
Yes,
thank
sir.
Okay. This case is closed.
Okay. Item C, State of Mississippi, 346 Elmer Street. This property is still in violation.
Anyone here to speak on behalf of State of Mississippi, 346? There being no one, this case is closed.
Item D, State of Mississippi, 348 Elmer Street. This property is in violation.
Anyone here to speak on behalf of State of Mississippi, 348 Elmer Street? There being no one, this case is closed.
Hey,
Code
Jerry,
enforcement hearings are concluded.
Kenny? When you bill a state, do they ever pay you? You bill the state of Mississippi here.
What we do with the state is we will go ahead and cut the property, clean the property. We'll add it to the tax rolls as a special assessment. And then at some point, when somebody does redeem the property, then that special assessment will be paid by them. It's not paid by the state of Mississippi.
I didn't think so.
Yeah.
So you got to hope that somebody buys the property.
Yes, sir.
Period.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Need a motion for the routine agenda.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Barrett. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Gines. Mr. Barrett?
No discussion.
Mr. Gines?
None.
Mr.
George?
Lawrence?
Where's that back there? Hey, got a suit and tie on again. Must be doing well.
Be brief.
Try. So, last time we spoke, Amos said they were going to hold off all payments till April 1st, and April 1st came around and they put the money in. So the money, the 1.685 million, is in step 4 or 5. It's been there about 5 days, so we should have it into our city accounts in about 10 days.
Thank you. Keep the update. Good.
Yes, sir.
Just keep
All right.
rolling.
Yes, sir.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor of the routine agenda? Motion passes 6-0. Chair entertain a motion to recess.
Moved.
Second.
All right, moved by Mr. Lawrence, second by Mr. Gines. Any discussion? All in favor? We stand in recess.